The 8-foot tall lady named Haji Sakusama. 8 feet tall. My father's family home was a little under 2 hours away by car, where we lived, a small village surrounded by farmland. I often stayed with my grandparents during my summer vacation and winter breaks from school, and they were always happy to play with me, but the last time I visited them was over 10 years ago, when I was still in my third year of high school. It was my spring break, and I had been invited to visit since of good weather. I rode my bike out to their house, and after I got there, I was a little cold, so I reached out and stretched in a warm, sunny spot off the road for a moment. Then I heard something strange. Paw, 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 paw. It wasn't a mechanical noise. It sounded strange, but human. I looked about aware to see where the noise was coming from, and I saw a hat peeking over the top of the hedge. The hat moved along to break the hedge, and when I could see that it was being worn by a woman in a white dress, she had to be tall. The hedge was 2 meters high. Before I could really think about it this much, the woman was gone, seemingly disappeared. The strange sound was gone too. At the time, I guess the person's height had been due to wearing very tall platform shoes, or that it had been a man dressed up like a woman. Odd, but that was all. A little later, I was having tea with Grandma and Grandpa, and I mentioned the strange person I had seen, and I thought it was Transvite. But when it was afterthought, I also mentioned the strange paw, paw. My grandparents panicked. My grandpa suddenly showered me with questions. Where did you see this? How much taller was it than the fence? Did it look at you? I answered as quickly as he asked. Then he rushed into the room with a phone in the hallway, shutting the sliding door so I couldn't hear the call. The room was suddenly very quiet. My grandmother smiled a little, but was trembling for some reason. Grandpa came back soon and told me I would be staying overnight with them. I had to admit I didn't understand what the fuss was about, and asked what was so bad about the strange woman. Grandpa said Grandma can tell you. Then he looked at her and said, "We're gonna pick up someone named Kei-san," and then left. In a clearly shaky voice, Grandma said, "It seems Haji Sakusama has become interested in you, but we shouldn't worry. Grandpa is making arrangements." Grandma then told me little at a time that Haji Sakusama was not a person. She was some sort of yokai named Haji Sakusama because of her height. 8. Haji. Hachi. Saku. 8. Hachi. 8. Tall. Haji. 8. Saku. Foot. Sama. Person. Her appearance could change somewhat, sometimes young, sometimes old, but she would always be abnormally tall. She would always have a creepy laugh. Paw, paw, paw. Once, Haji Sakusama took interest in a person. They were hunted to death. In just a few days, the last known victim of Haji Sakusama had been 15 years previous. I learned that later Haji Sakusama was supposed to be trapped in a shrine near the village, having been sealed by 4 statues of Jisu, a protective deny of children, each placed to north, south, east, and west of the structure. The village had some sort of agreement with its neighboring villages, wherein they were given some advantages to make up for the fact they had to watch over the monster. For example, they got first priority on water. Since it had been over a dozen years since Hachisaku-sama had killed anyone, I have to wonder if the old men in those villages thought it was still a good arrangement. At the time, I couldn't believe what I was being told. Of course, then Grandpa returned with a very old lady, Kei-san, for that's who it was, handed me a small paper charm and told me to hold on to it. Then Grandpa went upstairs. While they were upstairs, I tried to excuse myself to use the bathroom, but my grandma wouldn't let me go alone. She insisted on keeping the door open and an eye on me as I was using the facilities. As this was when I started to really understand how serious my grandparents felt this situation was. I was soon led to an upstairs bedroom with one singular window, and the room had been covered with newspaper on which a charm like the one I was holding has been affixed. In each corner of the room, a pile of moshiro, scared salt. Had they also set up a small wood box with a statue Buddha on it. I was told to, no matter what, stay in this room until 7 in the morning, and that I couldn't leave no matter what. They provided a bucket for me to potty in. Grandpa made it clear that neither me nor Grandma would talk to me until 7 in the morning. Kei-san told me to keep the charm on me and told me to pray to the Buddha if I got scared. I had a bed and a TV in the room. Grandma had left me snacks. I tried to watch some TV, but I couldn't pay attention. I wasn't hungry either, so I just laid in a bed, wrapped in the sheets, and eventually I fell asleep. Because the next thing I remember was waking up to a late night show on the TV. My watch said it was around 1 a.m., and I heard something tapping on the glass window. I tried to ignore it, but it's very persistent. I had some tea and a snack. I turned up the TV to drown out the tapping. Then I heard my grandpa call out from the hall, "You alright? It's okay to come out if you're scared." I started for the door automatically, but stopped myself as I remembered the instant my grandpa had told me he wouldn't talk to me until 7 in the morning. Again, I heard him, "It's okay, come here." I wanted it to be my grandpa's voice, but somehow it wasn't. Suddenly, I had goosebumps all over me. I noticed the salt in the corner was becoming darker. I dropped in front of the Buddha, clasping the charm in both hands. I started praying for help. Puh, 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 puh. The tapping on the window started again, louder than before, more instant and defined. A hand slapped on the window. Despite the fact I was on the second floor, the only thing I could do was keep praying to the Buddha. It was a long night. I don't remember much other than praying to the Buddha. I heard the news on the TV. I looked over, and the morning clock on the screen, it showed 7:13 a.m. Garth Note. All Japanese TV channel shows, on-time screening during morning programs. The tapping had stopped. The voice had gone. The salt in the corners were almost black. I gingerly opened the doors. Grandma and Kei-san, both looking worried, were there. Grandma, in tears, told me everything were gonna be okay. Downstairs, I saw my father waiting. Grandpa had came in from outside. We needed to drive off outside. There was a number of men standing near a van. My grandpa's car was in the front of the van, and my father was behind it. I was seated in the middle of the van, with 8 of the men sitting around me, 1 to each side, and then 3 in front of me, 3 in back. One more man took the driver's seat, and Kei-san took the passenger seat of the front. I was told to keep my eyes closed and my face pointing down to the ground. You are the only one that can see Hajisaku-sama. Don't look at her. Our convoy started off slowly at first. I don't even think we traveled 20 kilometers before Kei-san warned us the things that were about to get hard, then started chanting phrases like a Buddhist. And then I heard the laugh again. Po, 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 po. Puh, puh, puh. I clutched the charm to my chest and I kept my head down, but I couldn't resist a quick peek at the car's window. That was a mistake. I could see a white dress. It appeared stationary to the car's window, even though we had been moving at very fast at that point. The figure moved as if to lower its head to the window, and I gasped. The man next to me told me to shut my eyes, which I did tightly. Though no one else could see Haji Sakusama, they all heard what happened next. The tapping. I don't know how the tapping started on every window in the van, all at the same time. I don't know how long it lasted over time, but it faded. Kei-sen stopped chanting. By the time, and eventually, I said that she felt now we were safe. So the cars pulled over, and my father and grandpa thanked the men who assisted. As it turned out, all of them were related to me. Grandpa and Kei-san had hoped to confuse Hajisaku-sama by surrounding me with many people of the same bloodline. I had to stay overnight while Grandpa was gathering my kinsmen, and it was deemed safer to try to escape during the day than the night. Kei-san asked me to show her the charm, which I had forgotten I was still holding. It was almost turned entirely black. Kei-san commented, "It should be all right now, just in case," and handed me a new charm to hold until I got home. I drove home with my father. During the drive, he told me one of his friends, when he was young, had been taken by Haji Sakusama. Grandma and Grandpa and the neighbors delivered my bike back to me later. I was talking to Grandpa over the phone. I've confirmed that it was not his voice I heard outside the room that night, which sent shivers down my spine again. Hajisaku-sama targets teens and children, so if the monster speaks with a familiar relative's voice, the victim would normally come to it willingly. I'd almost forgotten. After all 10 years, Grandma called me that one of the Jisu statues had been sealed Haji Sakusama into the shrine. It looked as if it had been broken by somebody. The statue was broken, lined up with the road leading to our home. 2 years later, 2 years ago, my grandpa died, sadly. I was not allowed to attend his funeral. I tried to tell myself it was all a superstition, but sometimes I hear that poor voice call. Po, 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 po.